The House of Representatives will now come to order. Leading us in our prayer this afternoon is Donnell Chambers of the Fort Pierre Ministerial Association, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance, led by our pages of the day, Belle Niederbaumer of Huron and Ella Vanderschnick of Willow Lake. Please rise.
It is an honor and a privilege to come before you and take us to the throne of grace. Shall we together pray? Merciful Father God in heaven, we come bowing before your throne at this time, thanking you for being such an awesome and amazing God. We thank you for this life that you provide to us. We thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ. We thank you for the Holy Spirit who intercedes on our behalf in our prayers. We thank you for as he goes before the throne on our behalf, uttering those things that we may forget in our hearts to pray for, or Lord God, or be able to articulate those things that we may not be able to in our prayers. Lord God, I thank you for each and every person that is here. I thank you for our speaker. I thank you for the pages. I thank you for our clerks. I thank you for the representatives and all those who are witnessing here, Lord God. I pray that you will be with those who are also on our live stream looking here, Lord God. Lord God, I pray that you will be with each and every one of us as they go over the task at hand today on the calendar. Lord God, Lord, we may be having our differences of opinion, but Lord God, I pray that we will be able to come together and reason with one another. I pray that we will be able to allow your wisdom, your grace, and your mercy to intercede on our behalf to help us to build a brighter and better future for generations to come. We thank you and love you, Lord. It is in the mighty name of your Son, Jesus, we humbly do pray. Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will please call the roll.
Representative Andera, Arlen, Auk, Elward, Baumiller, Bathke, Baxter, Sismowski, DeGroot, Derby, Duffy, Emery, Fitzgerald, Fosness, Garcia, Goodwin, Gosh, Greenfield, Halverson, Healy, Heerman, Heineman, Hughes, Hunt, Ismay, Jameson, Jensen, Jordan, Jorgensen, Casson, Kaiser, Colbeck, Call, Ladner, Lems, Manhart, Massey, May, Moore, Mortensen, Muckey, Mullally, Mulder, Knowles, Norstrup, Odenbach, Overwig, Peterson, Poyer, Randolph, Rayfeld, Reimer, Reich, Rice, Roby, Rowe, Schaefbauer, Schwanz, Shorma, Schubeck, Sharda, Soy, Stevens, Uribalk, Van Diepen, Wahlberg, Weems, Weisgram, Whitman, Speaker Hansen.
Here.
Mr. Speaker, there is a quorum.
Approval of the journal.
Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Legislative Procedure respectfully reports that the Chief Clerk of the House has had under consideration the House Journal of the 22nd day. All errors, typographical or otherwise, are duly marked in the temporary journal for correction. And we hereby move the adoption of the report respectfully submitted. John Hanson, Chair.
That motion having been made and seconded. Any remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval of the journal will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Communications.
The Speaker announced the following changes in committee assignments. Representative Soy from the House Committee on Judiciary and the House Committee on State Affairs. Representative May from the House Committee on Education to the House Committee on State Affairs. Representative Knowles to the House Committee on Education. Representative Whitman from the House Committee on Local Government to the House Committee on Judiciary. Representative Weisgram to the House Committee on Local Government, and Representative Hughes as the Vice Chair of the House Committee on Judiciary.
Reports of standing committees.
Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Legislative Procedure respectfully reports that the Office of Engrossing and Enrolling has carefully compared House Bill 1020 and finds the same correctly enrolled. Respectfully submitted, John Hanson, Chair. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Legislative Procedure respectfully reports that House Bill 1080 was delivered to His Excellency, the Governor, for his approval at 10:50 a.m., February 18th, 2026. Respectfully submitted, John Hanson, Chair. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on House Education reports that House Bill 1017 was amended and due pass. House Bill 1262 be referred to the Joint Committee on Appropriations with a due pass recommendation. House Bill 1311 due pass and be placed on the consent calendar. Respectfully submitted, Lana J. Greenfield, Chair. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on House State Affairs reports that House Bill 1222 do pass, House Bill 1275 be amended and do pass. Respectfully submitted, Scott Odenbach, Chair. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on House Commerce and Energy reports that House Bill 1292 be amended and do pass. House Bill 1318 was deferred to the 41st legislative day. Respectfully submitted, Carla J. Lems, Chair. Mr. Speaker, the House Committee on Appropriations respectfully reports that House Bill 1089 do pass, Senate Bill 73 do pass and be placed on the consent calendar. Senate Bill 72 and 75 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Mike Derby, Chair. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on House Judiciary reports that House Bill 1040 do pass, House Bill 1045 be amended and do pass. House Bill 1252 was tabled. House Bill 1268 and 1295 were deferred to the 41st legislative day. Respectfully submitted, Mike Stevens, Chair.
Messages.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to return here with House Bill 1020, which has passed the Senate without change. Also, Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to transmit herewith Senate Bill 20, 55, 98, 111, 138, 179, 183, 190, 198, 205, 223, and 227, which have passed the Senate, and your favorable consideration is requested. Respectfully, Peggy Lorenz, Secretary.
Motions and resolutions.
Representative Odenbach moved that House Bill 1046 be moved to Monday, February 23rd, the 26th legislative day.
That Odenbach motion having been made and seconded, any remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of the Odenbach motion will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
The Speaker declared that House Concurrent Resolution 6014 was withdrawn at the request of the prime sponsor pursuant to JR 6B-1.1. House Concurrent Resolution 6015, a concurrent resolution encouraging the Executive Board of the Legislative Research Council to form an interim legislative committee to study the role and function of county boards of mental illness. Representative Mucky moved that House Concurrent Resolution 6015, as found on page 216 of the House Journal, be adopted.
That Mucky motion, there it is, Mucky motion. That HCR 6015 be adopted, having been made and seconded. Remarks on your motion, Representative Mucky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the funniest part of the conversation is going to be your first Mucky motion of the session, hopefully not the last. So normally I'd say I'm very happy to bring you this CR today, but I'm more honored than not. What this CR does is encouraging a summer study on the effect of our county mental health boards. With latitude, Mr. Speaker, I have a bill that I may reference that has a similar subject, if I may.
Granted.
Thank you. So This CR was brought, typically you see a CR come to the floor instead of coming to a committee, but I intentionally brought this to House Judiciary after bringing a bill, House Bill 1114. The reason for that piece of legislation when brought was a constituent who reached out to me on a very set of tragic circumstances. A mother who had lost her daughter to suicide after being involuntarily held 4 times in Avera Behavioral Health, and unfortunately took her own life after the 4th involuntary hold. And when that piece of legislation was brought to me, it was brought because of a concern that there is a gap in the statutes and laws that govern not just our county mental health boards, but ultimately the involuntary commitment process that is then reported to the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. I was grateful to the committee for hearing that bill and talking it through with us. And after moving away from that piece of legislation, we introduced HCR 6015, which is in front of you today. This CR was brought together by multiple stakeholders who are impacted by this particular topic, families who've been impacted by suicide, but also the providers, mental health providers across the state, law enforcement, making sure that we're also accounting for the needs and safety of those who own firearms safely. And so what this CR does is request a summer study specifically on outdated legislation, outdated statutes on our county mental health boards that need study, particularly focused on how we train and support our county mental health boards, particularly in rural areas where they may not have the resources to quickly communicate with each other and with law enforcement and with the Attorney General's office who oversees the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. This, again, is really focused on bringing together the Attorney General's office, UJS, mental health providers, sheriffs, the folks who are involved in that system, as well as families impacted and us as a legislature. Normally when I talk about summer studies, I'm not usually too excited about another summer study, but what I think is important to state with this as well is the Department of Social Services understands that this is an immediate issue that needs to be addressed, and they are also looking at these statutes and training as well. So the timing for this is great. Out of great tragedy, there's a great opportunity for us to revisit statutes that need to be attended to. And so with that, I ask for your green vote. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Further remarks on SCR 6015. Representative Wahlberg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I couldn't echo our colleague from Minnehaha County enough. That was a very emotional hearing, listening to that in Judiciary that day. But speaking on the law enforcement side, this is something that we should have addressed a long time ago. And I'm very proud that he's bringing this bill. I hope that we can have a good outcome with the summer study, and I also encourage a green vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on HCR 6015. Any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, the question for the House is the mucky motion that HCR 6015 be adopted. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote. Oops. Hey, everybody. Representative Arlen.
Personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, hey, I have the opportunity today to address and invite a few of our favorite people from the Sioux Falls community to the House today. If those from the Sioux Falls Chamber and leadership could stand up for us real quick so we can recognize you. We're happy to have you here today. They've come out to observe our process, learn a little bit more about what we do on a day-to-day basis. They will also be having an incredibly fun social at Red Rosa tonight and would love it if we could all attend. Please help me to welcome them.
Representative Peterson.
Granted, thank you. To our right, we have with us today senior government class with Mr. Adam Miller for Tripp Delmont High School, which is in the same district as Representative Baumiller and I represent in District 19. So please help me welcome them to the Capitol. Thank you.
Representative Goodwin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was starting to think you were against short people or something. We have in the gallery today the AFLAC from Sioux Falls and Rapid City. I think they're over here to my left, headed by Amber Lind. And in the gallery with them is my son, Tim Goodwin. That's an original name. And my daughter-in-law, Beth. So if we could all give them a warm welcome.
Representative Van Diepen. Granted.
Today we have our James Valley Christian senior government class, and Representative Greenfield and myself, along with our page, Belle Niederbaumer, would like to welcome to our Capitol with their teacher, Mr. Hofer. So welcome to the Capitol.
Representative Mortensen. Granted.
Thank you. Well, folks, the Phillips Scotties, would you all stand up along with their teacher, Mrs. O'Connor? These are tough kids out from Phillip, the Phillips Scotties. When I was a baby buff wrestling for the Stanley County Buffaloes, no team more routinely kicked my butt than the wrestlers from Phillip. These kids are inherited that proud tradition of tough kids from cattle country. Would you please welcome them to the Capitol?
Representative Yuri Balk.
Thank you. Personal privilege.
Granted.
I'm going to list a few names, and so hold your applause till the end. Today in the House, we do have Elaine Roberts, who served in the House from 2004 to 2005 from District 9, so former legislator. We also have Casey Michelle from Sioux Falls, who served from 2001 to 2007 in the House from District 12, so we have the two of you stand. But today, lunch was provided by the South Dakota Advocacy Network for Women, which is a nonpartisan collaborative focused on women's rights for safety, autonomy, equality, and justice. The mission of the network is to strengthen women's voices through advocacy, communication, and action. So we're grateful to have them in the Capitol. If they could stand and be recognized.
Representative Ladner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please join Representative Goodwin and myself in welcoming Hill City School Board President Eric Lind, Vice President Carmen Ronish, and Superintendent Blake Gardner. Today they are here to be honored as the reigning School Board of the Year. Let's welcome them to the House.
Representative Greenfield. Representative Weems. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 46, nays 21, excused 3.
The Mucky motion, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elected, is hereby declared carried. HCR 6015 is adopted. Consideration of committee reports.
Representative Odenbach moved that the reports of the Standing Committee on Health and Human Services on House Bill 1220, as found on page 329 of the House Journal, and House Bill 1199, as found on page 327 of the House Journal, be adopted.
That Odenbach motion having been made and seconded. Any remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of the Odenbach motion will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Representative Mulder moved that Senate Joint Resolution 503 be placed on today's calendar, the calendar of Wednesday, February 18th, the 23rd legislative day.
Is there a second? The Mulder motion that SJR 503 be placed on today's calendar, having been made and seconded. Remarks on your motion, Representative Mulder.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, only speaking to the calendar. Obviously, this issue is one that's been around the legislative body for quite some time. It's been well debated. It was heard in House State Affairs. First vote was 6-6, tied up. We believe if we had a full committee, where we know that it would have made it to the floor on a 7-6 do pass recommendation. So we're asking for you to vote yes in calendar SJR 503 today. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on the calendaring motion? Any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is the Mulder motion that SJR 503 be placed on today's calendar. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote.
Gosh votes no. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 29, nays 38, excused 3.
The Mulder motion having failed to receive the majority vote of the members-elect is hereby declared lost.
Representative Heerman moved that House Bill 1138 be placed on the calendar of Thursday, February 19th, the 24th legislative day.
The Heerman motion that House Bill 1138 be placed on tomorrow's calendar. Having been made and seconded, remarks on your motion, Representative Heerman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In speaking to calendar this, I first just want to say thank you to everybody for their support yesterday. It was greatly appreciated. As far as calendaring today, I would continue to ask for your support. I'm bringing this legislation as an origin from our district in Brookings. And I had a very productive conversation today with the Department of Health, as I have with my fellow colleagues. And as discussed yesterday, I have an amendment ready to drop should this get approved forward. So I thank you for your consideration. I encourage you to vote in favor. It'll make you feel good.
Further remarks on the Heerman motion to calendar? Any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is the Heerman motion that House Bill 1138 be placed on the calendar of Thursday, February 19th, the 24th legislative day. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote.
Representative Schwans. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 48, nays 19, excused 3.
The Heerman motion, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members-elect, is hereby declared carried. House Bill 1138 will be placed on the calendar of Thursday, February 19th, the 24th legislative day.
Representative Goodwin moved that House Bill 1240 be placed on the calendar of Thursday, February 19th, the 24th legislative day.
The Goodwin motion, having been made and seconded, that House Bill 1240 be placed on the calendar of Thursday, February 19th, the 24th legislative day. Remarks on your motion, Representative Goodwin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is an important bill, and it went into committee and it came out without recommendation. Had a very fair hearing. Committee ran well. We since looked at the recommendations of the committee that came up during the hearing, and we got an amendment to it that can address those. It's a very important subject that we need to address sooner or later, so let's not kick the can down the road. And so the amendment's out, it's coming out now. I think you'll like it. And we'd just like to have a full body hearing of it tomorrow. So with that, if you could give me your green vote, I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Further remarks on the Goodwin motion? Any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is the Goodwin motion that House Bill 1240 be placed on the calendar of Thursday, February 19th, the 24th legislative day. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote.
Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 31, nays 36, excused 3.
The Goodwin motion, having failed to receive the affirmative vote of the majority of members-elect, is hereby declared lost. First reading of House bills.
The Speaker declared that House Bill 1225 changed prime sponsor from Representative Healy to Representative Emery at their request.
First reading of Senate bills.
Senate Bill 20, make an appropriation for tax refunds for elderly persons and persons with a disability and to declare an emergency. Senate Bill 55, make an appropriation for the payment of extraordinary litigation expenses and to declare an emergency. Senate Bill 98, prevent virtual currency kiosk fraud. Senate Bill 111, require that social media companies provide collected personal data of a user at the user's request and maintain transparent interoperability interfaces. Senate Bill 138, revise the time within which a recount for a school board election must be completed. Senate Bill 179, permit a court to commit a juvenile adjudicated delinquent for certain weapons offenses to the Department of Corrections. Senate Bill 183, modify requirements for public notice of a hearing prior to a vote to impose an excess tax levy. Senate Bill 190, provide for the rights of a parent. Senate Bill 198, restrict the use of a cell phone by a student during the school day. Senate Bill 205, revise registration fees for drones and establish a fund to support drone aviation. Senate Bill 223, modify the requirements for a petition to refer an excess tax levy of a school district to a vote. Senate Bill 227, establish a minimum damage threshold for a motor vehicle total loss declaration.
The Speaker assigns to House Commerce and Energy, Senate Bill 98 and Senate Bill 205, to House Education, Senate Bill 138, Senate Bill 198, and Senate Bill 223, to House Judiciary, Senate Bill 179, to House State Affairs, Senate Bill 190, to House Taxation, Senate Bill 183, to House Transportation, Senate Bill 227, and the Speaker waives committee referral on Senate Bill 20 and Senate Bill 55. Second reading of consent calendar items.
Representative Wahlberg requested that House Bill 1254 be removed from the consent calendar. House Bill 1162 adds certain substances to Schedule 1 of the Controlled Substances Schedule.
Consent calendar items having had their second reading are for consideration and final passage. Consent calendar items are bills and resolutions that have been reported out of committee with no negative votes and certified as uncontested. If any member objects to the placement or retention of any item on the consent calendar, the item must be removed from the consent calendar and placed on the House calendar for debate. Items on the consent calendar are not debatable, but questions might be asked. Are there any questions? Any questions? Seeing none, then the question before the House is final passage of the item on the consent calendar. All those in favor will vote yea, those opposed nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote.
Representative Fitzgerald. Representative May. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk, please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 67, excused 3.
Consent calendar items. Having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect are hereby declared passed. Check, check. All right. Second reading of House bills.
House Bill 1041, an act to authorize the expansion and renovation of the Sturgis Readiness Center, to make an appropriation therefore, and to declare an emergency.
House Bill 1041, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Jorgensen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I'm going to encourage your green vote on keeping South Dakota's Guard ready, local, and responsive. HB 1041 funds the needed expansion and renovation of the Sturgis Readiness Center so that South Dakota National Guard can meet mission demands and respond more quickly during emergencies. So right now, the Sturgis Readiness Center is too small and outdated. And so what this bill does is it expands and updates the current facility. The cost is a total of $10.7 million, $8 million federal, $2.7 million state, $335,000 has already been done for design. So the remaining state share is $2.35 million. This supports real-world response in South Dakota for winter storms, wildfires, floods, and the Sturgis Rally security support. So please vote yes on HB 1041.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1041? Any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of House Bill 1041 due to the appropriation and the emergency clause. House Bill 1041 does require a 2/3 vote. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote.
Heerman votes aye. Mulder votes aye. Representative Schwanz. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
The clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 63, nays 4, excused 3.
House Bill 1041, having received the affirmative vote of 2/3 of the members elect, is hereby declared passed. Any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct.
House Bill 1010, an act to modify requirements regarding the use of a mobile electronic device while operating a motor vehicle.
House Bill 1010, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Shorma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, everyone. Members of the House of Representatives, State of South Dakota. I'm seeking your support of this very important matter, 1010A. I listened to the committee members and want to thank them for the opportunity to amend this bill, which is already in place, to remove the items that were resisted in the initial conversation. Amendment 1010A adds the ability for groups like Lyft, Uber, and others to tap the screen and select the next customer location that they're going to drive to. The second amendment with 1010A is the use of a cell phone or electronic device in an agricultural vehicle. That was removed and is no longer allowed. HB 1010 tightens the functions you can do with your hands while you're driving down the street or highway. The challenge has been to law enforcement that when they pull somebody over that they've observed using the phone in their hand, they just say, well, I was just answering a person's name and phone number, because that was allowed under the old bill. So they could wiggle out of the issue. So it tightens up the functions as you're driving down the street or highway. Your priority when driving is just that. Drive safely. Focus your attention on driving the automobile or truck safely at all times. So why are these changes being proposed? Well, I won't regurgitate the crash data that we went through in the committee that defines how many accidents or crashes or deaths are caused, because it's hard to gather, but law enforcement, highway patrol, county sheriffs, city police officers, in fact, the head of the South Dakota Police Chief Association testified in the past in this support of this bill and commented that this situation is continuing to grow in severity and it's putting people's lives at risk. So I just ask you also, trust your own eyes. You all drive out here to Pier every week. Can you honestly admit that you've never seen anybody swerve on the road, go over to the rumble bar strip on the edge, and really even maybe driving down the road with the phone sitting on the center of their steering wheel watching a movie? I passed a guy on the way out here 2 weeks ago who was doing that. I honked at the guy, he looked over and went on his merry way like there was just no big deal. And he's putting people at risk. He's not putting himself only at risk, he's putting everybody else on the road at risk. Now, I wasn't going to bring this up, but I decided I'm going to anyway. We have a seatbelt law in the state of South Dakota. That is a personal choice issue that we've decided is important enough to protect people's lives in the vehicle that they're in. This law is a personal choice issue, but if you disobey it, it puts everyone at risk around you, your passengers, people in other cars. How many of you have seen reports lately of my granddaughter lost a good friend from high school this last summer. She was over by Lamar's, Iowa, middle of the day, and she ran head-on into a semi-truck. Was she paying attention to what she was doing when she was driving? No. But it was not mentioned in the accident report that she may have been texting and driving. So, if you're driving down the road at 75 miles an hour, in 5 seconds, you've gone the distance of a football field and a half. What can happen in 250 feet, 240 feet? An animal darting out, a child coming off of a road chasing the ball that rolls out into the street. Anything can happen in a situation like that, and if you don't have your eyes on the road, something bad can happen. So, be honest with yourselves. Is this really a danger? I think you have to agree that it is. Other states that have misuse of cell phones, along with iPads and tablets and so on, they're passing laws. Iowa just passed a very strong law last year. It's growing in importance. Cars are swerving, cars are driving.
Mucky yields.
Thank you. So 1010 is designed to raise awareness of the danger. It requires that users put phones down and penalizes lawbreakers that are practicing distracted driving. Now, I can tell you, I know that you've heard me here on this bill. Well, if you haven't been in committee, you haven't. Last year you did, because we talked about it on the floor, but the year before was only in committee. It's the people that are asking and working with me to get this done are passionate about it. They've either run off the road, they've lost a loved one, or they've suffered a severe accident. We can correct a lot of that. So if your car is not equipped, I can tell you it's easy. I've been practicing what I'm preaching for the last 3 years, and believe me, it's really not that difficult. If I'm driving out here on the interstate and I decide I need to make a phone call, I can take the next off-ramp, the rest area, whatever, and make the phone call that I need to make. Dial it, get the person on the phone, and get back on the road. I can still drive hands-free at any time. It's also easy on two-lane side roads. You can pull off on a gravel road, you can do that. It's just not that difficult, and it doesn't take that long. It doesn't take any more than 20, 30 seconds to get the phone call made, get them on the phone, and then carry on. You can set, if you don't have Bluetooth, you can set your phone on the console and talk with the speaker on. It's not that tough. I've asked Public Safety to put together a plan to increase advertising to educate others, because I think that will be just as effective at reducing the number of accidents as a law. I really hope they do that, because driving while texting and driving, the life you save may be your own or many others around you. So I would really appreciate your support. This bill saves lives. Thank you for your time and attention. I stand by for questions.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1010? Any further remarks? Representative May.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I guess I maybe would like to ask the sponsor a question.
State your question.
Isn't it already illegal to, in South Dakota, to use your mobile electronic devices to write, text, read?
Representative Shorma, do you wish to answer that question?
While you're driving. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry.
While you're driving.
Representative Shorma, do you wish
Sure.
to answer that question?
Thank you. Yes, it is. The part that's being struck out of the law is entering data, entering a person's name or cell phone number into the phone while you're doing that. Today, when a citizen is pulled over for texting and driving, they go, well, I was just entering a phone number. I wasn't really texting. And it's causing problems for law enforcement officers to actually cite somebody because they have to allow them to continue on if they were following that particular segment of the law, and that's what's being eliminated from the previous law. So,
follow-up or remarks, Representative
Yeah,
May?
remarks, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for that answer. Well, I've been here a while, and I think, and I was trying to look it up, and I think in 2013, we did the original, and then we came back in 2020, and we did it again. And so I appreciate what the sponsor's trying to do. I think we all understand what you're trying to do here. But to me, we can't do any more with the law. It has to be the public out there that understands the seriousness. Now, if we were bringing something that's, you know, we're gonna work on advertising and getting it out to the public, I think the public, you know, that's where we need to concentrate on. And I've lost a friend too to a texting and driving incident. But I don't see how we can do any more as legislators. We've put it in law, we've said it over and over and over again. And we tend to do that. We come back down here and we want more. I think the laws are clear. I think that we've worked hard on this over the years. I know I have, I've been involved in it. But I just don't think that there's any more that we can do as legislators. We have to rely on the public and getting the message out, encouraging young people. I remember when we passed one of the bills, I remember driving down the street in Rapid City, and all the young people, you could tell that they had their phone down here. They didn't have it visible, but it was down here. So, you know, we try to correct as many things as we can around here, but, you know, it gets to a point where more is not always better. So I'm going to resist this, but I appreciate the good sponsor for bringing it back to the attention of the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Sharda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The amendment pertains to driving tractors and stuff. I'm a farmer, and farmers need to talk on the phone once in a while, and you're going down miles of gravel road to not be able to use your cell phone to hold it to your face while you're driving. I think that amendment is a bad amendment. Also, I'm a mile from Minnesota, and Minnesota has these laws, and it's very restrictive over there. South Dakota is a free state. We want to keep it a free state. Please vote red.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1010, Representative Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to this bill. It is already illegal to text and drive. We should not make it illegal to hold a phone up to your ear and to call someone. And also, I just want to go on record, some of us disagree with the seatbelt law as well.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1010. Any further remarks? Anything in closing, Representative Shorma? Representative Shorma in closing.
well, thank the good representative from Bennett, Jackson, and all those other counties she represents. It's true, there has been a law on the books
anytime we have a law in the books and there's little areas that people can kind of sneak around and get away with after they've been arrested, or pulled over rather, by citing something in the law, then we have to fix that part. And that's all this does. This isn't rewriting the whole great big law. And to the point of advertising and promoting, you've seen a lot of those advertisements out there, and I'm really grateful for that. I've been, like I said in my opening remarks, I've worked with public safety and the highway safety and so on, and said, look, and I really think we need to do like we did with drinking and driving, where we took accident demonstration vehicles to high schools and showing students what can happen if there's an accident because of texting and driving. Put a little fear into the students and teach them that this really can happen. Because, you know, when I was 17, I was Teflon coated and bulletproof. I don't feel so bulletproof anymore, and I certainly don't have any Teflon left. Students need to learn that this is not something they should practice. I also would appeal to the parents and teachers to get those kids to put them down. So with that, I'll just wait for the vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of House Bill 1010. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine, and the members will proceed to vote. Ladies and gentlemen, I see our doctor of the day is back in the gallery. Dr. Neil Chiquin of Pierre, South Dakota. Please join me in thanking and welcoming Dr. Chiquin back to the House of Representatives.
Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 21, nays 46, excused 3.
House Bill 1010, having failed to receive the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect, is hereby declared lost.
House Bill 1182, an act to establish a data collection system pertaining to assisted reproductive technology and to provide a penalty therefor.
House Bill 1182, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Jorgensen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I bring to you today House Bill 1182. This is a straightforward, common sense measure which simply directs the Department of Health to collect annual data on assisted reproductive technology procedures performed in South Dakota. It is not a restriction on IVF or any fertility treatment. It is purely a reporting bill. South Dakota already maintains robust mandatory medical reporting systems across many areas of healthcare. We require hospitals, physicians, laboratories, and clinics to report every diagnosed cancer case to the South Dakota Cancer Registry. Births, deaths, fetal alcohol syndrome cases are tracked through vital records. Hospitals submit charge data, immunization records, and on and on. HB 1182 simply extends the same proven, responsible approach to assisted reproductive technology. No more, no less. And I want to just speak from personal experience. A close friend of mine, well, actually a close relative of mine, underwent multiple rounds of IVF several years ago, and the emotional, physical, and financial toll was immense. Unfortunately, it did not result in a successful pregnancy. That journey was heartbreaking, yet it deepened my admiration for the courage of families who pursue these treatments and for the dedicated medical professionals who provide them. My family's experience taught me that infertility is a real medical condition deserving of compassion, not judgment. I remain fully supportive of IVF and every legal fertility option available to South Dakotans who dream of building a family. That support is why data collection matters. Without reliable numbers on cycles, embryos created, transferred, success rates, live births, we fly blind. How many South Dakota families are turning to art? What are the outcomes? Good data informs better policy and better care, exactly as our cancer registry and vital statistics systems do every day. I also want to highlight the personal story from the Senate sponsor of this legislation. His niece is a beautiful, healthy IVF baby. Well, actually, she's not a baby, she's 14. And her existence is living proof of the hope and joy these technologies bring to families. In fact, her mother and she also were proponents for this reporting bill. So when even the sponsor's own family has been blessed by IVF, it underscores that this bill is not about limiting access. It's not about understanding or stewarding a medical service that creates life. It includes reasonable penalties for non-reporting, not for providing care. It respects patient privacy through standard de-identification data practices already used elsewhere in state government. Clinics will simply submit the same kind of aggregate information that they already, not the same, but some of the data. Some of the data for South Dakota is, there are gaps in the federal reporting, so we actually will have some additional data. But some of it is similar to the national registries like the CDC's ART surveillance system. So South Dakota families deserve both the freedom to pursue IVF and the assurance that their state is tracking outcomes responsibly. HB 1182 delivers exactly that balance. I urge you to give it a strong do pass recommendation, or I ask that you vote green so that we can have the transparent, useful data our policymakers and providers need. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1182? Any further remarks? Representative Mortensen.
Well, good afternoon, folks. I'm very proudly pro-life, have been ever since I announced I was running for this. I'm also very pro-baby. Those two things are not disconnected. I really like babies. I think they kind of like me. I have kind of a cartoonish face a little bit. They seem to really cotton to that. I'm so pro-baby, though, folks, that I got to be against this bill, and why? Because I don't particularly care how a baby came here. I don't care the journey that it took. I think we ought to love every single baby equally. And the raw facts of this matter is that this is a regulation that begins to stifle and suppress IVF. Some of the very best people in this state have become parents because of IVF. They've become grandparents because of IVF. They've become aunts and uncles and godparents. This is a technology that we should be celebrating and not just starting to regulate. President Trump, in October 16, 2025, announced his efforts to reduce the cost and make IVF even more broadly available. So he says we should be embracing this and moving it forward. And here we are trying to regulate this thing. And so I know that we've heard that we have support for IVF, that we like that. We know kids who have been born to it. And I suspect that's true of almost everyone on this floor. You ask around your communities, has this been a good thing? Are there kids who are in this world because of this amazing technology that we know and love? I think almost everyone would say yes. I think our reaction to that should be support and admiration and not more regulation. Our goal should be more families, not more government reports. And so I'm sure it will be said, but this is just reporting. It's just reporting. I think we got to be very careful when we start putting regulations on folks without their consent and without their consultation. I want you all to imagine what the debate would be on this floor if this bill was requiring just reporting of homeschool students. If we said, we just want to know what tests you're taking and what score you got, what worksheets you worked on that day and whether they were completed fully. Now that's not even really that personal of information when you compare it to your family, to your kids, to you and your wife trying to have a baby. That's personal. This bill says that is what the government should be entitled to now. And if we were having this conversation in the homeschool context, I'm sure many, many would say, too intrusive, too intrusive. And so folks, today our question Today, our question is a balancing of interests. It's the government's interest to a report about people's families, the most private thing, the government's interest in having more government reports of that, versus a grandparent's interest in having a grandchild or a parent's interest in having a child. And doing that in whatever way that baby arrives here in South Dakota, where I'd say he is desperately wanted and needed. Folks, I tell you, we got to vote red on this bill. We should be a state that wants more families, not more government reports. The pro-baby, the pro-family, the pro-life bill on this, I am happy to stand with President Trump, with Governor Roden, whose administration opposed this, and with those grandparents and parents and aunts and uncles and godparents, and yes, all those children. I want to stand with all those folks and urge you to vote red today. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1182? Any further remarks? Representative Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Seth Gruber, you might want to Google him, Seth Gruber. He was at a conference, a pro-family legislative conference down in Dallas, Texas this summer. And I'd never really thought about IVF until I heard him speak. And one of the things that really stood out in his talk was these children that are the product of in vitro fertilization are lost. They don't know who their dad is. They don't know their family heritage. And he was extremely passionate against this whole process. And I understand where those that can have, like we couldn't have kids together and ended up adopting. But it's a tough issue. But I just want you to keep that in mind as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1182? Representative Ladner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I am very, very, very pro-life. I hold life to be fragile, a blessing, and a gift, no matter how that gift comes wrapped. I don't believe that if I was an in vitro baby or an adopted baby, that I wouldn't know who my mother and father were. They're the people who love me. They're the people who are raising me. And I'm a little offended. Well, let's get back to the subject at hand. Did you know that there's one clinic providing IVF services in South Dakota? One clinic. They already report all their findings to the National Art Surveillance System, Society of Assisted Reproductive Technology. So this legislation that we're talking about would affect one clinic in South Dakota. We talk a lot about local government and about not growing government. I think this is an overreach. I don't think the need matches the want of the bill. I don't think that the heart of the bill is bad. I just don't see us as having or should increase government and government control with an issue that's already being addressed and already being tracked and are already being compliant. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1182? Any further remarks? Representative Jorgensen in closing.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, there's so much misinformation. I think as a government, we really do have a responsibility to track human embryos. That is not tracked under the federal system. In fact, last time they posted their results was 2022. They do not track what's happening to these human embryos. And I believe that we do have a responsibility to know what's happening. And the thing that's really interesting to me is, as I was looking at what other places do, I went to Europe, and I looked at what Europe does, and their standards are so much stricter than ours, and yet it hasn't closed down IVF. It hasn't stifled IVF at all. And in fact, if you look at the United Kingdom, what they're doing, it's just mind-boggling to me that we would say that these children aren't loved. In fact, the proponents, I'm going to list them, South Dakota Right to Life, we love babies. South Dakota Catholic Conference was a proponent, love babies. Concerned Women for America, love babies. South Dakota Family Voice Action, love babies. We love these babies, but we want to know what's happening with the human embryos. This is life. This is life, and we care about all life. And if you're truly pro-life, and I hear this all the time, from conception to death, to natural death, we do have a vested interest to know what's happening with these babies. And we're not closing down IVF. This is just collecting. When I say it's just a reporting bill, it truly is a reporting bill. And it's something Europe has been doing for decades. And what it is in the United States is we have the wild, wild west of what's going on with human embryos. We don't know where they're going. We don't know how many there are. And I think we have a vested interest. We need to care about all life, and especially the least of these. So I'm going to ask for your green vote. This is not an overreach. This is really a pro-life, pro-baby, pro-family bill. So please vote green. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of House Bill 1182. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine, and the members will proceed to vote.
Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there are ayes 26, nays 41, excused 3.
House Bill 1182, having failed to receive the affirmative vote of the majority. More votes no.
More votes no. Mr. Speaker, there are ayes 25, nays 42, excused 3.
House Bill 1182, having failed to receive the affirmative vote of the majority members elect, is hereby declared lost.
House Bill 1253, an act to adjust the assessment methodology for owner-occupied single-family dwellings and non-agricultural property by considering previous year's assessed values.
House Bill 1253, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Odenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to bring this issue of property tax relief before this body today. It's the number one thing I hear about, and I know it's number one thing a lot of you all hear about. And you know, since 2020 is when things kind of went crazy, as we all know. We invited the whole world to come to South Dakota, and they listened to us. And it impacted some areas more than others, but it impacted all of us. Out where I live in the Black Hills, it impacted us bigly, as the president might say. And one problem with all the people that moved to South Dakota that we've seen, if you listen to your constituents, is that our tax assessment system wasn't really ready for the scale of growth that we had. And so what you saw is, and what you continue to see is, people have homes in a community, say in Deadwood or Lead or whatever, and people move in next to them, and the way we assess properties every year, all their neighbors pay cash for their house, and the houses go up big time, and then the taxes get reassessed on your house, even though you decided not to move, and even though you're not treating your home like a commodity that can be bought and sold, because it's just your home, and you just want to stay there. And so what this bill seeks to do is to try to address the root cause of that. It's not the solution to the entire property tax situation we have, but I think it's part of the solution. And you know, I wanted to just to give voice to some taxpayers. I get stuff on this every day. On the 3rd of February and on the 9th of February. The 3rd of February, a constituent emailed me and he said, hey, the owner-occupied property class has been the most dramatically impacted by extreme increases in assessed property valuations since 2020. More than 400,000 owner-occupied households statewide have actually witnessed valuation increases in the triple digits. we've had to sacrifice in order to deal with these increased property taxes. And he goes on and is asking for relief. Another one says, and she's from Deadwood, she says, in the Black Hills, we're facing a unique crisis where property valuations are being artificially inflated by the rapid expansion of the short-term rental market. And she says, we are effectively being taxed out of our own communities to make room for vacation rentals. So I don't want to read email after email, but I hear this all the time, and I'm sure many of you have. So what we want to do with House Bill 1253 is start getting at the root cause of these valuations. Now, I don't want to talk this to death, but I want to just go through the bill briefly. What it's going to do is essentially take for our owner-occupied and our non-owner-occupied tax classes, do the same methodology for the valuations that we do for agricultural property, which is called an Olympic average if you read the bill. And it's basically you take the last 8 years of the valuations, you remove the single highest and the single lowest values, and that becomes the value that you're then applying the mill levies to. And the bill in Section 2 talks about that being the intertemporal average value of the property. What we also do on page 2 of the bill is say that if you have a change in use or classification during this period, you reset the value for the new value. So if you have a vacant lot, for example, has been an issue we've discussed, and you put a whole new structure on it. And in addition, if you make an addition to the property, but it's less than 40% of the total value, that doesn't reset it. So you're still able as a taxpayer to benefit from having these values basically be moderated. Take it over the same 8-year period that we do for agricultural properties. I've had fiscal analysis done by our great staff at LRC, and they basically said for counties, the average will be to knock it back probably to about 2023 levels. So it will be a significant, and we heard testimony from our own Department of Revenue who came in. They had some problems with the bill, but they admitted that at the end of the day, this is going to be a reduction in owner-occupied property taxes. So we've seen big spending increases in government spending over the last 4 to 5 years. 35% overall for state government, public K-12 up 39.8, county government statewide up 31.4, and that's as against a state population increase that was up only 4.3. So what this essentially does, if we are going to have to shift the burden in budgets, it's going to shift the burden a little bit on those government budgets potentially, but it's going to take the burden off our constituents who've seen these gigantic valuation increases year after year and give them a sense of certainty for what their tax burden is going to be. So I'd ask you to please support this bill.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1253? Any further remarks? Representative Weems.
Mr. Speaker, members of the body, while I think the intent of this bill is to reduce property taxes, it does so on the backs of counties. The job of directors of equalization is to equalize, to make equal, to make uniform, to distribute evenly or uniformly. HB 1253 does not equalize. The directors of equalization will have to do the full and true value and then calculate the Olympic average. This causes an impact on our county assessment offices all across our state. The last sentence of the bill binds the counties who do not set different levies based on different property classes. All property classes are levied at the same level. So owner-occupied, ag, and commercial or other business, and they'll all be levied that same level in order to generate the funds used by the counties. If this bill were passed, the assessed value of homes and businesses will drop, in some cases significantly. The counties, in order to fund their budgets, would typically increase the levy to compensate for the drop in the taxable value. Because of the last sentence in the bill, they will not be able to do so. This would result in an increase in taxes imposed on ag property, which isn't allowed. So here's the deal. County budgets will take a big hit from this bill. The effect of the bill will, hold on. The effect of the bill will cut and vary by county, but all counties will see a significant budget cut. I do not think that was even an intended consequence of the bill, but that's the result. I urge you to vote no on House Bill 1253.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1253? Representative Weisgram.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, in tax committee, when we heard this bill, I would agree with the prime sponsor that the Department of Revenue spokesperson did admit that property taxes would go down, but I took it as probably in year one. After that, then just the mill, they would need to go and reassess the needs and then probably just raise mill levies. So I think this proposal is surely well meant, and we're all working for the consumer, right? For our voters back home, for our constituents. But I think this is a very short-lived property tax reduction. I'll just read to you. I was talking to emailing my county folks, and this last sentence kind of was impressing me. It says, suppressing the assessed value doesn't really lower property taxes. It just keeps the property from being assessed at its full and true value. So I'm a no on this. I think it's just a temporary thing. I think there's better proposals out there. And thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1253? Any further remarks? Representative Derby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question for the sponsor.
State your question.
Is the intent of this goal to do an Olympic average of the assessed values over 8 years? Is that what I understand?
Representative Odenbach, do you wish to answer that question?
Yes, yeah, I'll answer. Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay.
Follow-up remarks, Representative Derby.
Thank you. Remark, please. I was hoping to have this discussion in the context of all of the property tax bill relief bills we have. So I've been saving this information for that point in time. And I went back to my own personal property in Rapid City, in the middle of District 34, one of the fastest, highest growth rates and values in the state. And in 2021, can I give personal information on the floor?
That's okay. Yep.
In 2021, I purchased a townhouse for $316,000. Multiple offers, craziness going on. Nice little townhouse. The next year, my assessed value was $365,000. In 2023, my assessed value was $447,000. In 2024, my assessed value was $435,000. And in 2025, my assessed value was $441,000. Bought it 5 years ago for $316,000. It's assessed at $441,000. That's, works for me. But what about my taxes? I'm just going to quote you the first half payment of my taxes in 2022 were $2,589.39. That's 21. 22, they dropped $2,281.92. 23, $2,576, slight increase. 24, $2,456. This is my first half taxes, so the second half doubles it. And then 25 payable in 26. My property taxes are $2,445.55. Well, it's less. I'm in the middle of the hottest area in South Dakota, and my actual tax payments went down slightly over a 5-year period. So I kind of keep my mouth shut on this whole issue because my assessed value has gone up dramatically and my taxes have gone down. But I'm living it right in the middle of it. So I'm a no vote on this for that reason. Thank you.
Thank you. Hope your assessor's not watching. Representative Norstrop. Representative Norstrop.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too am a no vote, and property tax is fairly simple. If you save money on one particular class of property, there's two possibilities. There's only two possibilities. Either you have to cut government spending, and the way I read the bill, this bill doesn't do that. So the way I read the bill is, it's for every $1 million or every $100, pick a number, that you save the homeowners, somebody else is going to pay that tax. And let me tell you who that somebody else is. It's renters. It's the barber shop on Main Street. It's the gas station. It's the small business guy. That's where so imagine the millions and millions and millions of dollars this is going to save the homeowners. The renters are going to pay it. The small business guys are going to pay it. Not a good idea. Vote no.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1253? Any further remarks? Representative Rice.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I have several different properties in different counties, and I do have some in Pennington, and some of those did go down. It's weird, but I don't mind them going back up a little bit. They didn't go down that much. But if it helps with our people having like my home in Meade County, it went up quite a bit, and I don't know why that one went up $4,000 or $5,000 since. Probably $5,000 since 2020. So, so it's kind of, I think if you do the average, it helps the average. You know, it's going to help the average homeowner save on their taxes, and that's what we want to do. We want to try to lower the people's property taxes so they can stay in their home. I'm at the point in my Meade County home saying, well, do I still want to keep on paying more than my mortgage payment for my taxes and insurance? Or do I want to maybe, when I retire, go someplace smaller and not have to pay these taxes? So every county has a different way they do these things. I don't know why some people go lower and some people go higher, but I think if we do this average over the 8 years and try to make that average to help the people that are getting hit high on their property tax and getting, actually, I have 2 employees that are 70 years old that work for me because they can't afford their property taxes, and they have to go back to work. And you go to any Walmart, and they're filled with older people that had to go back to work because they have to pay those property taxes, and that's why I'm hoping it will help, and the young people too. So I'm going to vote green. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1253? Representative May.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, a few comments. Can't use props, but we've got a printout. We've got 25 different tax bills trying to address property taxes that we're currently looking at. Lots and lots of good ideas. I want the public to know that everybody, all 105 on this side and the dark side, they're all concerned, right? And I wanted to address the county. Not only all of us are working on property taxes, but so is the governor's office. He's came before us and told us his ideas, and one of them addressed the county issue, which allowing the counties to impose a tax too. Great idea, a bill I brought probably 10 years ago was shot down, but that's besides the fact. So I think that it's a little premature just to say that we just need to kill this bill. I think all of our tax bills that are coming through, I think that they need to go through, and we need to keep them moving, because we've got a long ways to go yet, and we've got a lot of different good ideas in here. I always tell everybody property taxes are a 3-legged stool, and so if you do one, you got to look at the other two. So I think it's premature if we just start killing these bills now. I think it's important to move them through and let us all 105 of us get together and figure out what the best plan will be to help our property owners across South Dakota. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1253. Representative Wahlberg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question for the Prime.
State your question.
I may have missed it initially, but can you tell me how this is going to work if we have these new people that are trying to get into a home for the first year and we take your Olympic average? How is that going to work for them when it comes time to figure their taxes?
Representative Odenbach, do you wish to answer that question?
Sure, Mr. Speaker. Well, as the bill says, you'll start a new you'll get a new valuation that will be stepped up or revalued, if you will, based on the purchase price of the house when they buy the house. And then that purchase price will be that year's valuation, just like they do now. And they have to do the 85% true and actual value of it, and then they'll apply that to the Olympic averaging that we have in the bill.
Follow-up or remarks, Representative Wahlberg.
Maybe just a remark initially, sir. So initially, they're going to have a higher tax bracket, but then eventually, if I understand you correctly, they're going to start stepping down.
Is that a question for the sponsor? Representative Odenbach, do you wish to answer that question?
Yeah, sure, Mr. Speaker. Well, they're going to have the same bracket that they always would if we did nothing. If this bill wasn't in existence, that would be the same. They're going to get the house is going to be valued based on what they bought it for. That's, the most recent value if the assessor's taking a look at it. What this bill says is then that value gets put in an Olympic average situation, and all the prior values of that home would be taken as far as coming up with the valuation that's then applied against the mill levies.
Follow-up question or remark, Representative Wahlberg.
Just a remark, Mr. Speaker.
Go ahead.
In tax committee, I was a supporter of the good representative from Lawrence County in his bill. He had a lot of great ideas that were in that, and I thought that we could all work together to come to some good bills that we can represent. And if you all just take a look up in the gallery, look at all these people that are up here that are expecting us to come up and do something. And I'm going to mention the word team. T-E-A-M. The letter A in there goes for all. They expect all of us to come together and work on a good bill. And all of us, there's a lot of us in here, to include the Senate, that are coming with a lot of bills. And they have a lot of passion behind them. They have a lot of ideas. And I'd like to echo our representative from Bennett County and some others that we need to work together. All of us work together to present the best bills so we don't create some hard feelings and somebody gets mad at us because we're starting to kill bills. We have 25 that are coming through tax committee. And let's all work together to present the best ones for people here. So we just have a couple to vote on, and not 25 of them. But again, I just want to commend the representative, the Prime from Lawrence County, because he did put his heart into this, and he did try and work hard, and I did support it in tax, and I still do. But I think we can put some other things together with it to make it even better. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Gosh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for the bill's prime sponsor.
State your question.
So when talking about an Olympic average, we're taking the 8 years, we're removing the top and bottom, and that's going to slow the process or slow the progress of increased property taxes. Am I understanding that correctly?
Representative Odenbach, do you wish to answer that question?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Yes, that's the general idea.
Follow-up or remarks, Representative
Follow-up,
Gosh.
please, if I may. So would this adverse apply as well? So if property taxes start to drop drastically, or property values start to drop drastically, would this also potentially slow and add stability to local governments in budgeting?
Representative Odenbach, do you wish to answer that question?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I mean, that's one way to look at it. And when we were drafting this bill and working with staff, and you start talking about a situation where they start dropping, the best estimates we had this would be an immediate drop back to like roughly 2023 type levels if you look at budgets overall. And then to your question, if there are people concerned about stability of government budgets versus, in my case, also adding stability to our constituents' budgets, yeah, you could argue that this would provide more stability and there wouldn't be as many shocks as they see drastic spikes in these values, whether up or down.
Follow-up remarks or
Follow-up comments, please, if I may, Mr. Chair. So as many of you know, I served on a school board prior, and we've used Olympic averages before in business. Many of you are going to fall asleep, but in Ark County, which is a crop insurance program, we use Olympic averages. We go 5 years, we drop the top, drop the lower, and it helps stabilize our crop insurance rates so that we were not getting hit with that big year that it rained and then getting dropped with that low year where it was a drought, right? And it adds some stability to our crop insurance. Well, on a school board, I was serving on the school board when a lot of the tax freezes and assessments were removed. We put in a low mill levy as school board members, and we generated almost $800,000 more than we needed, because the assessments shot way up. So what did we do? We took our mill levy down to 0, and we deficit spent for a while. That's how we adjusted as a local government. My argument for this bill and why I think we should support this bill is for stability on both sides. We talked about local government, we talked about the property tax owner. I think this is a great way to govern when we talk about property taxes in helping with that stability. I don't have to worry about getting an enormous increase year after year. And then the local governments don't have to worry about huge deficit spending year over year in the event that it goes the other way. The argument for would also be, I think we're close to the top of property taxes. I hope we are, because I too want them to go down. And as they start to decrease, I fear that if we don't pass something like this in legislation, our local governments might be back in a year or two asking us to do this very thing for the other reason. So I think this bill is good on both sides, and I applaud the prime sponsor for bringing it, and I would urge you to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1253, Representative Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A question for the Prime.
State your question.
I'm wondering what drives the 40% carve out for increases?
Representative Odenbach, do you wish to answer that question?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. The reasoning for that is we don't want to discourage people remodeling their homes. So the idea was if you build a whole new structure on, then that, as we had explained, resets the value. But we wanted to say you've got a deck on the back and you want to enclose it, and that maybe adds 25% of your value. We don't want to discourage people from doing remodeling and making improvements to their real property.
Follow-up question or remarks, Representative Rowe.
Maybe a follow-up question.
State your question.
Thank you. Wouldn't that distort the fair market value and change it from an 85% to something that isn't accurate to the valuation of the property?
Representative Odenbach, do you wish to answer that question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. No, it wouldn't distort the value. They're still going to be assessing it at whatever its true and fair value is, and then using that as part of the averaging in the event that they've made improvements that are 40% or less.
Follow-up or remarks, Representative Rowe.
Remarks, if I may.
Go ahead.
If you take a 40% improvement to an 85% of fair market value, it moves that new value to a 60%, and that's just pure math. So I think I get where we're going. I don't like the 40% cutout. I think then we end up chasing those improvements later on and maybe overvaluing them in an assess in a new market. So I'm going to be voting red on this, and I hope everybody else does as well.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Szymanski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I supported this in tax committee, and I'm only going to add a few thoughts. Most everything else has already been said. It's, yes, it's not the most easiest thing to implement, but when I look at property tax and the comments about our doing our job, there's a lot of property tax bills that are coming. Some have already come, but picking them all apart, I guess, is what I don't want to do. And I believe this one deserves to live on, because when I looked at my calculations shows This would provide a $392 savings on every home in the state that is owner occupied. It's not what I don't think that's what the citizens are expecting, but it's a right step. And there's still time to modify if needed. And I just wanted to add that to the discussion. I'm going to continue to support it. Admittedly, there's no bill that's perfect, and this one's got a little work, but I know that the intent is in the right direction, and if no other bill passes, folks will get $392 a home. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Overweg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the rest of my time to the bill's main sponsor.
Thank you. Representative Odenbach in closing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I greatly appreciate the opportunity here today to have a great debate and be talking about property taxes, because I think it's the #1 issue, and we so often get sidetracked on so many other issues. And they're all important. I'm not taking anything away from that, but we've spent a lot more time on so many other things than on property taxes. There's not a lot more to be said. The #1 thing that I've heard in regards to high taxes is people screaming really about the huge spike in their valuations in so many areas of our state. And if you want to start cutting property taxes, there's just a few ways, if we're going to be honest, to do it. We either force cuts to government to let people keep more of their money, or we change the way that we tax them so that everybody involved, government and the people paying for government, can have more stability in the system that we use to tax them. We've used Olympic averaging for our agricultural producers really as a matter of public policy for years and years now, because we don't want to subject those people to huge spikes that's going to drive them off the land. And yet we've now, in the last 6 years or so, seen that happen in too many places to our homeowners. And we need to protect homeownership in this state, and I hope you'll vote green.
Thank you. Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of House Bill 1253. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine, and the members will proceed to vote.
Randolph votes aye. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 38, nays 29, excused 3.
House Bill 1253, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect, is hereby declared passed. Are there any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct.
House Bill 1272, an act to require that a snow bear be titled and licensed.
House Bill 1272, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative DeGroot.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I have amendment.
What is the number of that amendment?
The amendment is 1272D.
D as in dog?
The amendment.
D, I'm sorry, was it D?
D as in dog.
D. Has it been distributed online?
And the reason there's so many amendments on it.
Hold up, Representative. Has the amendment been distributed online? Go to your microphone. Yes. Has the amendment been distributed online? Do you wish to move it at this time?
Yes, I do, Mr. Speaker.
That motion to amend House Bill 1272 with Amendment 1272D having been made and seconded. Remarks on your motion, Representative.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The amendments are quite simple. If you look on page 30, we amended it. I amended it right after it went through committee. Instead of rubber tracked vehicles, it's tracked vehicles. And then when it went back through LRC, they found out we were sending the money from the excise tax and for the $10 licensing fee to the Game Fish and Parks. And our co-counsel, Jason Getz, said we can't do that. It has to go back to roads or road repair. So instead of sending it to Game Fish and Parks, we're now sending it to Parks and Rec so they can maintain the access to the lakes and where these snow bears are used.
Okay, point of clarification. We're not seeing a 1272D online up here.
I think You know, I thought I dropped it. Can I go around and check?
Yeah. All right, we'll be at ease just for 1 minute. Okay, I'm being told now it is online. Does everybody have 1272D? Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up. Everybody on the same page here? We got a thumbs down over here. D is in dog. You got it now? Okay. Everybody clear on the amendment that we're on, 1272D. We good?
So,
Representative DeGroot.
Mr. Speaker?
Go ahead.
It's rubber track to track, delete 9, and there's a new 9. And then the other amendment is where the funds go to, not to the game fish and parks. Now it goes to Parks and Rec. And, you know, I thought it was a simple bill, and all of a sudden we got it amended 4 times. So anyway, we take a vote on the amendment now?
You bet.
All right.
Any further remarks on the motion to amend? Seeing none, the question before the House is the DeGroot motion to amend House Bill 1272 with Amendment 1272D. This is a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion to amend will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. That motion carries. We did it.
Thanks, guys.
Representative DeGroot.
My good friend from Lincoln County said there wasn't such thing as a perfect bill, and I guess he's definitely right there. This must not have been perfect when I brought it forward. It's pretty simple. When I was researching another bill, I talked to some people that use snow bears and some people that sell the snow bears. And snow bear, everybody has a thing on their desk what a snow bear is. And we found out that they're not licenses, and they're not, they don't have license on it, they're not titled. So what that means is you can't track them. If I take a snow bear from my neighbor, put it in my shed, I never have to license it, so it's my snow bear. It's really hard to find. Anyway, the bill is simple. I talked to transportation, revenue, game, fish, and parks. It's an accountability bill. What it does, it's a $10 fee for the license sticker. It's instead of a 4.3% sales tax, it reduces it to an excise tax to 3%, which is a good move. Anyway, I was asked by a couple people about out-of-staters, one right after caucus and one just 5 minutes ago, about out-of-states vehicles coming in. And basically 9 covers that. Any owner of an unlicensed snow bear must purchase a temporary permit to operate the snow bear in the state. So that should take care of that question. With that, I'll stand by for any questions.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1272? Any further remarks? Representative Mullally.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question for the Prime.
State your question.
How many snow bears have been sold in the state of South Dakota?
Representative DeGroot, do you wish to answer that question?
Yes, please. Thank you for the question. I think there's a dealer in Webster that I believe he sold 60, and there's a dealer on Lake Poncet that sells between 6 and 8 every year. And there's about 60 or 70 that are manufactured. It's a pretty limited market for these because they have to be in the northern states where the lakes freeze over.
Follow-up or remarks, Representative Mullally?
Just a small remark.
Go ahead.
And it seems like a very small amount of vehicles that we're targeting, because I feel that the fact of the matter, these vehicles are very expensive and not a lot of people can afford them. So we're going after, very targeted, and they are not on roads.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Baumüller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The previous speaker is correct. They are not on roads, but they are out on our lakes using our ramps, our boat ramps. My goal in life is, or when I leave the legislature, I'm going to go ice fishing. That's what I'm going to do. And I am going to buy a Snow Bear. And I would love to purchase a $10 license plate for it. I just really hope it is the Game Fish and Parks license plate sticker and there's a walleye on there. I do think we're going to have to address the out of state, but I think we can take care of that in the Senate, and I ask you to vote green and move this forward.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1272. Representative Halverson.
Question for the Prime.
State your question.
My question is this. Years ago, when combiners were coming through the state, some states didn't require license plates on the trailers that were hauling the combines. So if the other state doesn't require a license on their Snow Bear, can we obligate them to buy a license in our state?
Representative DeGroot, do you wish to answer that question?
I'll do my best. We're not going to require them to have more than that permit when they come across the state line. And there'll be some Snow Bears coming in from Minnesota because there are businesses that have their Snow Bears in Minnesota that come in, so they're going to have to. And maybe like the good representative from Salem, I'm not sure where you're from that area, I think. Anyway, that can be corrected. That's one thing I didn't really put much thought into as far as talking about out-of-staters. Maybe that can be corrected when it goes over to the Senate.
Follow-up or remarks? Any further remarks on House Bill 1272? Representative Gosh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just looking at the language of the bill. I think there's more machines that would qualify under this. Does this apply to the snow dog sport?
Is that a question for the sponsor?
Yes, please.
Representative DeGroot, do you wish to answer that question?
The snow dog sport. It is a tracked vehicle that simply just pulls you behind. The sport's got skis. I think it would qualify under this bill. So how do I license the snow dog sport?
Representative DeGroot, do you wish to answer that question?
Once again, I'll give it my best shot. It's not a snowmobile because a snowmobile has two skis in the front and has one rubberized track in the back, where this has two skis in the front and two tracks on the back. And so we tried to distinguish between the two. And I'm not sure, we used, if you read through the bill, we use Snow Bear with SNOW as a generic brand name because SNO is a marketed, already, not sure what they call it, but that's like a skidoo or a snowmobile or a snow machine. So we tried to define that. So I'm not sure exactly what other kind of vehicle you would be talking about, because Snow Bears can't even go on snowmobile tracks. They can only go on the ramps and onto the lakes, and of course private property. And somebody asked in committee, well, can they take it down the road? Well, they can, but I went to talk to the dealer and said, yeah, if you want to burn a whole bunch of things out, you can drive it down the road, because the top speed's probably about 5-6 miles an hour. I'm not sure, but good representative from Brown, Marshall County, he has one, so he knows a lot more about Snow Bears than I do. But so if I answer something incorrectly, you can raise your hand.
Follow-up remarks, Representative Gosh.
I'll just quick remarks. I think there's another individual that would like to discuss this, and I'll let you after. I guess my problem with it is I understand the generic term of Snow Bear and defining it. We're talking about one set of tracks. It just says tracks, and then two skis. There are different entities like Snow Bears. They do come, or Snow Dogs rather. They do come with fabricated enclosed. If you get the Sport Edition and upgrade, there's situations you could do this to side-by-sides. I guess I'm just a little worried about this bill's language when it talks about certain vehicles that we have to license in this particular way. If I decide to take my Ranger, which I do have skis, I do have tracks for, now I've got to license it as a Snow Bear. And I might just be using it out in my pastures depending on the snow. So I guess I would urge a no vote on this particular. I know what you're trying to do, but I think there's got to be some language worked out on what we're trying to define here. So thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1272. Representative Mortensen.
So I didn't know what a snow bear was, and then we were talking about migratory snow bears that are coming over from Minnesota, and now we're talking about snow dogs. This bill would not apply to snow dogs because it says it has to be enclosed. In other words, you have to sit in these. Snow dogs, as the internet is informing me, look a little bit more like a snow blower, but you don't sit in them. So this snow bears over here, snow dogs over here. So anyway, I think this is all good, but it would not apply to that type of thing. Wouldn't apply to a snowmobile, a four-wheeler, any of those. The enclosed portion, I think, is what makes this a specialty product, and this bill's ready to go.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Fosness.
Yeah. Well, so thank you, Mr. Speaker. I might be able to just to shed some light on this. I'm an ice fisherman. Unapologetically. I live in the northeast corner of the state where that's like a way of life. Snow bear may be very unfamiliar to many or even most of you in the room. I don't know because I never saw one in Pierre. There's not that many of them out there, maybe 750 totally ever made. So this is not a very common thing yet. Every morning in Webster, South Dakota, there's 30 to 40 of them at 5 in the morning at the intersection. It's a big deal in Northeast South Dakota, so they're used a lot. I first was apprehensive of my great friend Bill here on this, saying, just leave him alone, man. People aren't even going to understand what this means in here. The more he educated me as to why, the more I got behind this. If I have one of these, I invested in one years ago, love it. The only way my wife will go ice fishing with me. And so when we go out with that, right, and if it would ever be stolen, there's no way to know that someone else, you couldn't tell it from mine, it's not licensed. This thing could be jacked and gone. And so I appreciate this. It's an opportunity to get a number with them. It's a $10 fee on a piece of equipment. Fortunately, we get to use for many months up in our corner of the state. I'll be in mine this weekend. So it's that kind of a machine that we use them enough. I don't want it stolen. I actually want a number with it. And someday when I invest in a new one, I like the change in the tax amount that you pay on it too. So thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've talked about snow bears, we've talked about snow dogs, but we haven't mentioned snow cats, which are double tracked. They've got tracks on the front, tracks on the back. Would this apply to something like that if that came along and we had snow cats that were going out? And
Representative Groot, do you wish to answer that question?
You know what? If it's a snow cat, a snow bear, a snow dog, that's why we use the generic definition in there on page 4. It applies to all of them because we know there's going to be other manufacturers out there that they're not going to call it a snow bear. They'll call it a snow cat. Like when snowmobiles came out, they were snowmobiles. Now they're Skidoos, they're Yamahas, they're snow machines, they're everything. So we tried to define it the best we could so it's a generic term in the bill so it'll fit. And something might come along that won't fit, then we're going to have to write a bill to fit that machine.
Thank you. Follow-up or remarks? Representative Call.
Thank you. No more questions on that. I look at the wording. I like this bill. I think it makes sense. But I look at the wording and the definition when it talks about tracks in the back and skis on the front would not apply to something. So I think maybe that can be massaged a little bit and clarified so that we get all of these vehicles more or less covered. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One thing I noticed is the bill before this, we talked about how we want to lower taxes, and then the next bill we want to register more devices. All this is government overreach to move the Overton window so these can be taxed as well as others. The fee's $10. I guarantee in a couple of years we'll vote to raise it. So I just encourage everyone to vote no because it's just gonna start a slippery slope of registering everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Overweg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I give my time to the bill sponsor.
Thank you. Representative DeGroot in closing. He's waving his closing. Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of House Bill 1272 as amended. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote. Due to the new tax, House Bill 1272 does require a 2/3 vote.
Here. Representative Weems. Mr. Speaker, all members have
The
voted.
clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there are ayes 43, nays 24, excused 3.
House Bill 1272, having failed to receive the affirmative vote of 2/3 of the members-elect, is hereby declared lost.
House Bill 1108, an act to require the sealing of court files upon dismissal or denial of a petition for a protection order.
House Bill 1108, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, there's the old saying that you can't unring the bell, and that really applies oftentimes with protection orders. You can get a protection order in the state of South Dakota for several reasons. 3 or 4 of them are malicious harassment. Someone puts you in fear of death or fear of great bodily harm or assault, or you've committed a crime of violence. What this bill does is that, and you have those situations where someone files a petition for that, that becomes a public record, and anyone can access to see what those allegations are. What this bill does is 2 parts. Number 1, it provides that if someone files it, but then they don't show up, they don't have a hearing, then the court can seal that petition. And then the second instances is where there is actual hearing, but the judge finds that there was no basis in fact or in law and was harassing, frivolous, or abusive in nature, and they can seal that file at that time too. The whole idea is that you don't want to have somebody who they make allegations against you that's public record, and then your clients say to you, well, now what? That's on the record. Someone can get that record, and there's no way of disputing that once that bell has been rung. And so what this bill does is to protect that. I've met with the network individuals and worked language with them, and they're good with that. The UGS is fine with it. And this way it just kind of protects the innocent person who shouldn't have had those allegations made against him in the first place. And so I'd ask for your green vote.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1108? Any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of House Bill 1108. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote.
Greenfield votes aye. Goodwin votes aye. Heerman votes aye. Cole votes aye. Representative Mulder. Mulder votes aye. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
The clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 58, nays 9, excused 3.
House Bill 1108, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members-elect, is hereby declared passed. Any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct.
House Bill 1286, an act to amend the process by which monies are distributed from the employer's investment in South Dakota Future Fund.
House Bill 1286, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Overweg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it gives me great pleasure to bring House Bill 1286 to you guys today. A little history on it. This summer in GOAC, we came up with a bill to put some guardrails on the future fund. It did not get out of Senate State Affairs. When that happened, I decided that, you know, elections have consequences, and we don't know who will be sitting in these seats next session or who's governor or whatever. And it really weighed on me that we should have legislative oversight and some guardrails. So I introduced a bill with the help from the great LRC staff. And when the commissioner of GOED seen that, he came and asked if he could help work on it. And the good representative from Sioux Falls, Minnehaha, also had a bill and wanted to help. So this is kind of a all for one bill. We all kind of put in what we thought we needed. No one got exactly what they wanted, but this bill, I think, puts up very good guardrails. There was no opponent testimony, but I thought I should talk to you about it instead of trying to put it on consent. What this does is it makes mandatory every year written reports on any project over $1 million to the House Committee on State Affairs, House Committee of Commerce and Energy, Senate Committee on State Affairs, Senate Committee on Commerce and Energy, and GOAC. It also has in it some drawback money, or drawback ways. So if a company promises, say, 25 jobs and in a few years they're only doing 10, it'll give us opportunity to take money back. It also includes in it that to get money from the future fund, you have to spend your money first and then turn in a certificate and be reimbursed, which will help from projects that getting money and then never turning dirt or even started. So is it a perfect bill? No, but I guarantee you if you vote for this, it'll put some guardrails in to how the future fund goes on projects over $1 million. I think it's as good as we get right now, and I would really appreciate a green vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1286, Representative Mucky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the good representative for New Holland for making this happen. When you talk about statesmanship and good government, this is how this gets done. I got up on this floor last year after a bill was brought forward discussing the Futures Fund and its future, and when we talk about it, I think it's important to acknowledge an elephant in the room. There's a lot of frustration with how the Futures Fund has been used, particularly over the past 6 to 8 years. I think the thing that we also have to keep in mind here is how do we find the highest and best use of these funds? And so when I got up and spoke about this last session, I really tried to focus on how do we put reasonable controls in place. And I think it's important to give credit. The representative from New Holland may be underselling that this is a very effective bill. What it does is it takes a piece of history that we're grateful for, the vision of former Governor Mickelson in establishing the Futures Fund, but it was established in statute with one sentence. As you might imagine, when you're trying to regulate or provide oversight, one sentence isn't sufficient. So what this does is it puts in a significant amount of definition around what this fund was actually intended to be used for, which is primarily for workforce, and make sure that we have appropriate guardrails and processes in place. This is probably the only time this body might look at this and say, from a perspective of rule promulgation and process, this forces a lot of guardrails into place by working with the Governor's Office of Economic Development and this legislature to make it happen. Now, I know when it comes to the use of these funds, it's important for us to define the purpose and usage, and that's what was accomplished here. I'm also grateful to the representative from New Holland. He and I collaborated on this bill from a different piece of legislation that I intended to bring, and that is now reflected in this bill in the form of additional reporting requirements for GOED to make sure that we actually get accurate information, not just to the Joint Committee on Appropriations, but to GOAC, to State Affairs, and Commerce and Energy. The fact that we're able to get every party around the table and come to an agreement that this is the right path forward speaks volumes. And so again, I want to express my gratitude to the representative from New Holland. We found a good compromise here and we found the right path forward, and I appreciate your green vote today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1286? Any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of House Bill 1286. All those in favor will vote yea, those opposed nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote.
Goodwin votes aye. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
The clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 63, nays 4, excused 3.
House Bill 1286, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect, is hereby declared passed. Any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct.
House Bill 1217, an act to limit the use of taxpayer funds and resources by a public education employer to support a labor organization or affiliate and to provide a penalty therefor.
House Bill 1217, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. HB 1217 is a simple, straightforward bill that would prohibit public schools from funding public employee unions. Our tax dollars should be spent on education, not union activity. Teachers can still join unions and conduct union activity as defined by state law, but not on the taxpayer time or dime. That's not controversial, that's common sense. HB 1217 does 4 important things. First, it would end taxpayer-funded time off for union activities. Schools would no longer be able to pay teachers to conduct union work during school time. Based on salary data from the South Dakota Department of Education and the amount of union leave specified in each contract, the total cost to taxpayers across South Dakota easily is in the several $100,000 category. Secondly, the bill would end school district collection of union dues. Nearly half the union contracts reviewed in South Dakota, there's about 64, require or permit public school officials to use taxpayer-funded payroll systems to collect union dues. In Brookings, the union has even bargained for the right to solicit union membership, in quotes, during working hours on the employer's premises and without loss of pay. An analysis of 2024 payroll data indicates that in just a handful of districts alone, more than $735,000 has been collected on behalf of the teachers union every year. SDEA diverts a portion of the dues collected into their political action committee. About $219 of the annual dues paid by each SDE member is sent to the National Education Association headquarters for political action purposes, which commonly uses members' dues to engage in federal and state political campaigns, which most often stand for everything that South Dakota does not. And I have a bunch of information on that that I'm happy to share. There's also a substantial financial entanglement between the South Dakota Education Association and the National Education Association. The NEA in 2023, the last IRS filing that we have, the NEA gave $1.2 million to the SDEA, which was 40% of its revenues. So it's kind of big business. And the SDEA has a well-established presence here with facilities that we're all familiar with. Payroll systems funded by the public should remain dedicated to public business. If an employee chooses to join or support any labor organization, the choice remains fully intact, but the financial transaction should be a private one. Thirdly, the bill would promote fairness and equal access. The bill prohibits public schools from favoring, endorsing, or giving a union more preferential access to taxpayer-funded school facilities, meetings, personnel, and other resources than would be available to another association or other comparable organizations, in some cases even allowing school facilities and equipment to be used to solicit union membership and foster union activism. To be clear, I'm not talking about access to a school facility for union representation, which this bill does not affect. Fourth, HB 1217 will protect individual employees. No personal information can be shared without written consent. No teacher can be forced or coerced directly or indirectly into meetings or interactions. Participation remains voluntary, privacy remains protected. So why focus on public education? Well, simple, because that's where the issues that need to be addressed are in this type of situation. HB 1217 would not prevent teachers and other school employees from forming or joining a union and would not conflict with any other existing laws or rights. It would draw a clear line to ensure that our taxpayer dollars support public education, not unions. I urge your yes vote on HB 1217.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Arland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Anyone else in this room ever have a bill that really sits with you? You hear it in committee, and then it just sits with you. There hasn't been a day since we heard this in committee I haven't thought about this bill. I have wrestled with this bill. I have thought about this bill. I have thought about my Republican principles with this bill and the lessons my dad and grandpa had taught me growing up as I thought about this bill. I thought about this bill when I took my kids to the park this weekend. When I took my kids to the park this weekend, you know who I saw? I saw the teachers' cars in the parking lot because they were working on a weekend. When I dropped my kids off at their child care program on President's Day on Monday, you know who I saw? I saw the teachers. When I check my email at night and I get an email from my kids' teachers at 10 o'clock at night, I think about my kids' teachers and what they are doing for my kids. What message does this bill send to our kids' teachers? To our kids' teachers. All session long in the Education Committee, we have heard about how hard it is to be a teacher, how our teachers are being abused, how our teachers are being bit, how they are being kicked, how they are being disrespected, and the parents are nowhere to be found. We have heard that all session long. What message does this send to our teachers? What message? What message does this send to our teachers when we're only talking about them and not the firefighters? What message does this send to our teachers when we're only talking about them and not the city and county workers? What message? Well, I will tell you, I know exactly what message I want to send to my kids' teachers. I am grateful for them every day because I know that my kids' teachers, if they needed to, would put their bodies between my kids and harm's way. And I am a strong no vote on this bill today because I don't want the message to go to my kids' teachers that I don't appreciate them and I don't support them. I do support them and I want them to know that.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Fitzgerald.
Thank you. I have a question for the Prime.
State your question.
Do you know how much those dues are each month?
Representative Hughes, do you wish to answer that question?
Well, I can do the math for 2023 where the IRS filing for the SDEA is located online. Membership dues for the SDEA in 2023 were about 1.8 million. If you take 6,000 teachers at about $300 a year, I think that averages out about $300 a year, would be my guess, although it varies. I don't think that, I mean, that's all I can give you as a mathematical average.
Follow-up remarks, Representative Fitzgerald.
Just one additional question for the
State
Prime.
your question.
Could you tell me what some of those monies are spent on? You said they were spent on different areas. If you could just give us an idea of what those are. Thank you.
Representative Hughes, do you wish to answer that question?
I'd be happy to answer that. Yeah, frankly, if you look at the Form 990, you can't really tell. There are these generic categories of expenses, and I couldn't begin to tell you what they mean. And I'm happy to share this with you, but frankly, we don't know. I mean, without responding to questions, I can tell you that, oh goodness, around $1 million plus is salaries. Let's see, salaries and wages, 1.162 million. $1,162,485. Pension plans, $388,000. 207 other employee benefits, 481,670 payroll taxes, about close to 100,000. There's something called ballot, 46,000. My guess is that might be a ballot initiative that was being opposed. Then there's miscellaneous of 40,000. And, you know, I couldn't even begin. They say total functional expenses of 3.2 million. That's as good as I can get it.
Follow-up remarks, Representative Fitzgerald.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Auk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the sponsor.
State your question.
Are you, good representative there from Sioux Falls, are you aware how many of these dollars, how much of this money is actually given to the National Education Association?
Representative Hughes, do you wish to answer that question?
That's a great question. Probably a couple $100 would be my guess. I don't know. That's 6,000 teachers. But you really can't tell from the Form 990 with the generic categories that's used. All I can tell you is that in 2023, as I mentioned, there's 1.2 million that came from NEA to SDEA. And I know that there's money that goes from SDEA to NEA. But beyond that, I don't know.
Follow-up or remarks, Representative Auk.
Just a few remarks. I think that you can spend your dollars however you want, but I think we are focusing on educational dollars that are spent as a state, and those dollars are then used or paid into this organization, sorry. There's some serious criticism for the National Education Association, and sometimes their views, and you know, we brought up Republican views, sometimes the views lean as far away from our Republican views as you possibly can, and they're using a lot, 3 million educators with a $300 to $400 million annual budget. It operates as a powerful lobbying force for public education, primarily supporting Democratic candidates and progressive policies. Critics argue the NEA prioritizes political activism over classroom needs, spending heavily on social, gender, and political causes. Now, some of you in this room have no problem with those issues. Political spending. I think that the problem here is that we are looking at dollars that taxpayers are funding to come back and lobby against taxpayers. When we're thinking about allowing public dollars to then be turned around and be lobbied against elected officials, there might be a little bit of a conflict of interest. So for that reason, I am going to support this. And I've spoken many times about my children. I have children that belong to unions. I don't agree with unions. I've always fought against unions. I don't think they're a true representation, especially when we're talking about public tax dollars. So I will be for this bill.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Greenfield.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm really disappointed today. We had some victories in our very good education committee this morning. We talked about how we can better things for our teachers and for our students, and I think that we all left feeling very good on that. I'm not disappointed with the sponsor because he had a bill that he was asked to present, and he did so to the best of his ability. But I am disappointed in the bill itself. It was not asked for by any business manager, any administrator, school board member, or any community members, certainly not the teachers. In fact, it comes out of Oregon. It appears to single out one group, our teachers, people we work for and support during our session and hopefully throughout the entire year. We agonize over their frustrations and the extra work that they have to put in because the paperwork is endless, and who knows better than I do about that. Sometimes there's even lawsuits in which they find themselves. To this, they need support. For some reason, House Bill 1217C takes a lot away from that support system. Teachers can sign up with their association and pay for this insurance, either by check, debit card, cash, or as a monthly payroll deduction. That's right. The money is taken from their paychecks in a monthly payroll deduction, not paid by the schools, just as a courtesy, probably among them and their business manager. This bill would lead you to believe that schools are giving away taxpayer monies. If that is the case, are schools also giving away taxpayer money to dental or vision groups, to health associations, as well as through payroll deductions? We do not go after these, as we obviously want to shut off only teacher protection against being bankrupted by possible lawsuits brought when a child is hurt in Miss Mary's PE class, during Coach Swen's sporting event, or during a classroom activity which would result in severe injury. I guess teachers are not only to have low pay, but also no coverage for possible catastrophic situations. We got a handout on our desk, and it was stated that Sioux Falls teachers got 45 days off each year on taxpayer money. Well, that could be as far as sick days, professional days, personal days, I don't know, but I did talk to a Sioux Falls teacher in this chamber 2 days ago. And she said that she got to come out here because it was spring break, and that is why she could make the trip. I asked her why she didn't use one of the 45 days of paid leave for government activities, and she said they don't get that kind of leave. Hanson School District was also mentioned in this handout. It states that their teachers get time off for association leave. So I called a friend of mine at Hanson High School about this very thing, and he told me that no one belonged to this association in his school. Now, I find it very disheartening that an organization from out of state, heavily funded by the Cook brothers and Alfred Coors, would want to come into our state and insert itself in South Dakota, our business, and in our lives of our teachers. We are South Dakotans. Do we always get things right? No, I guess not. Should we let outside interests come into our state and tell us what is best for us? Absolutely not. We pride ourselves as being unique. That is why we need to say to outside influences, get out of our business. You are not needed, you are not wanted. We can handle our own matters.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1217? Representative Jorgensen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A question for the Prime.
State your question.
I'm sorry, I'm getting really confused. I would like to know, is this an opt-in or an opt-out for teachers as far as this being taken out of their pay? I'm getting really confused by the floor debate.
Representative Hughes, do you wish to answer that question?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. The bill addresses the use of public school equipment and staff time in order to collect union dues. That's the prohibition. So it would end, for example, an uncompensated to the school payroll deduction. Now, if the SDEA if wanted to pay the school district and reimburse them for staff time and equipment time to do the payroll deduction, they're free to do that. But this would end the free ride, so to speak, of the collecting of those dues by school equipment with school employees on school property.
Excuse me, Representative, sorry. Follow-up or remarks, Representative Jorgensen.
Remarks. It sounds like it's just a common sense bill. Doesn't sound anti-teacher to me. It sounds like all you're doing is make sure that taxpayers aren't paying for activities that are outside of
what teachers normally do? I mean, I'm confused by the outrage about an attack on teachers. It doesn't sound like it at all. It sounds like it's a bill that's protecting taxpayer dollars. So I'm going to vote green and kind of cut through the noise. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to this bill. I hesitate to do that after the good representative from Beadle and Clark County over here. She put it so eloquently, but a couple things that struck me. One, when I first kind of learned of this topic, the idea of taxpayer money involved in these types of organizations is certainly something to take seriously. But when I learned that we weren't discussing firefighters, we weren't discussing police departments, we weren't discussing county municipal employees, it was troubling. It called into question as to what are we doing here? Why are we having this discussion just about teachers and not about other organizations that may operate in similar fashions? And secondly, I'm sure many of you receive comments from teachers in your school districts, and I received several. And one that really stood out to me was a young teacher who left South Dakota for 4 years and came back to teach in South Dakota. Isn't that exactly what we want? For folks to come back to our state and teach in South Dakota? And she was concerned about the message this was sending to her from our legislature as a teacher in South Dakota. Please vote red.
Thank you. Further remarks, Representative Schwans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a tough subject. I rise today as someone who believes deeply in the integrity of our institutions. This bill isn't just about teachers. We all love our teachers. And we know that they dedicate themselves to their craft and to our kids daily. This bill really is about trust. It's about trust that the tax dollars, the taxpayer dollars, stay in the classroom. Trust that employees are free to choose. Trust that our schools remain focused on students above all else. Neutrality is not division, it is fairness. Independence is not hostility, it is strength. When we draw clear lines, we don't weaken our system, we strengthen it, we protect it, and we honor the people who sent us here. HB 1217 reflects the kind of principled leadership South Dakota is known for, and I would humbly ask for your green vote today. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on House Bill 1217. Representative Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The comments from the previous, from the sponsor's previous comments triggered something that I remembered from, it must have been 2010 or so. The issue of Common Core was being fought, and I, for one, was fighting against it. And my district mate was actually very supportive of it, and she was caught using public equipment to contact legislators and the public to fight against us who were trying to restrict the implementation of Common Core standards that dumbed down a generation of South Dakota students. Having said that, House Bill 1217 creates new sections in Chapter 13-1 prohibiting public education employer from using public monies or resources to support a labor organization or affiliate. The bill prohibits payroll deduction of union dues, the use of public funds to subsidize union activities, the provisions of employee personal information without consent, coercive interaction requirements, and the use of public facilities or systems to favor a labor organization. It contracts government power by prohibiting the use of taxpayer-funded resources to subsidize labor organization activities. The bill removes the ability of public education employers to deduct union dues from employee paychecks, expand public funds on behalf of labor organizations or provide preferential access to public systems and facilities. This is a direct restriction on government use of public monies. The bill does not prohibit private association. Employees may still join or support labor organizations. It does not criminalize membership. It simply prohibits taxpayer subsidization of those activities. From a structural standpoint, this measure reduces government financial entanglement with private labor organizations and limits the expenditure of public resources for non-governmental purposes. This aligns with fiscal restraint, neutrality, and taxpayer protection principles. Please support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Mucky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can't state more eloquently enough the words that the good representative from Beadle and Spink County shared, but I'll add one more point to this. When I think about what this bill accomplishes, my greatest fear is that we are beginning a stage of policing payroll deductions that we don't agree with. We choose to say an employee has the ability to elect to donate to a nonprofit in the community. They choose to elect to pursue an AFLAC policy. They choose to pursue something that they want to pursue because it is their paycheck. It's their choice. I'm not interested in policing somebody's paycheck because of choices they want to make, particularly when it may be something that wants to benefit their own community in supporting a nonprofit with a payroll deduction. That is just a mechanism in a way to make a decision on their own that they elect. And so I urge you to vote red for that reason and make sure that we're not suppressing somebody's choices in their payroll. Thank you.
Further remarks? Representative Lems.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I rise today as a wife of my husband, who was a teacher for 7 years and a coach before he became a firefighter at the city of Sioux Falls. And so we've been involved with the opportunity to be involved in unions through that. My husband, because of his beliefs, and he was uncomfortable with where that money would go, especially to the national level, he chose to get involved in a non-union professional association. And I'm thankful that he had the freedom to do that. And he entered into that for liability insurance and for legal protections that offered at the time. So there was no payroll deduction for him to be involved in that. We paid for it ourselves. We wrote out the check. To me, and maybe I'm just looking at this all wrong, guys, but I do support our public school system. Our kids went to the public school system. We have a lot of great educators in the public schools, in the Christian schools, in the home schools. And so to me, I'm looking at this bill, I don't see that it's saying, you know, that it's a slight against teachers. I think that it's a choice, giving us freedom. And for those that do feel that you don't want your taxpayer dollars to go to support the payroll deductions and where that money can end up, especially on the national level, I just look at it as a common sense bill. So I'll be supporting that bill today.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Wahlberg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just some comments. As we sit here and talk about this, I remember talking about this last year. I can't remember if it was in the middle or toward the end of the session, but we talked about what we can use our dollars for. And I believe I made the comment that we all do the same thing sitting in here. Now I want to go back to the beginning. Every one of us get paid wages. This is our wages. As the sheriff and deputy and a city police officer, I was paid wages to do some things. And what I chose to do with my wages was my business. It's not anybody else's business. Those were public tax dollars that I got paid with. Every one of you in here gets paid with public tax dollars. And we all go around and talk to each other about stuff that we're working on and what we can do to get this thing through or not, or how to change it. But how's that any different from our teachers? It's their wages that they're doing this with. Law enforcement is the same thing. It's their wages. A good representative from Lincoln County said the same thing. She just didn't say it in so many words. It's the wages that we're using. So if I want to use my wages for something to benefit, and if I'm that teacher, why are you telling me that I can't do that? That's what my wages are for. I chose to use my wages for something professional. If you choose not to do that, that's your right. But again, we're not saying law enforcement can't do that. We're not saying firefighters can't do that. Other electrical workers for the city or other county, we're just saying teachers. Teachers, teachers, teachers. I would really, and I cannot come back at what the great representative from Beadle County said. She topped the list on everything. She spoke it true from her heart as a teacher. We all have the best interest in here. We all want to do the right thing. But at some point in time, when is enough enough? When are we going to put this stuff aside and just really start working for what we need to do? There's a lot of things that are going to happen. We have a lot of things left to work on. Crossover week is coming up. It's nearly 5 o'clock. We have a lot of bills to do yet. But again, this week, we're talking about teachers. Please vote red. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Overweg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I respectfully yield my time to the bill's sponsor.
Thank you. Representative Hughes in closing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it's very interesting. This bill isn't going to either cause or prevent a teacher from being kicked, hit, or spit on in a school. That is a matter for the administration and the teachers to work out. That really should be part of the wages, hours, and working conditions that are part of a collective bargaining agreement. Since 1969, public employee unions have included teachers. That was the choice that was made, and it's a union. It's called collective bargaining for a reason. Collective means everyone together. I've been in a union. I've also been a welder who was a scab in a Kawasaki plant during a UAW organization. I could tell you a lot of stories about that, but I won't. Here's the reality. Police officers and firefighters are charged with public safety. That's a singular purpose we all agree on. The classroom is different, and you know what we have here, for example, House Concurrent Resolution 6020 demanded the National Education Association rescind its policy of a woman having a fundamental right to abortion. Does that conflict with the public policy of the state? Absolutely. Did the voters enact Amendment G? Yes. Does the NEA want an unrestricted right to abortion? Yes. Is that a problem? Yes. House Bill 1080, the Help Not Harm bill. We decided that we weren't going to allow minor children to make irreversible gender changes. Does the NEA support that? No. Do they oppose it? Yes. The governor's executive order on social studies. I know I can't use props, but this is South Dakota Know Your Rights. It's basically a missive on how to undo the education standards that the administration of our state enacted to end divisive issues and divisive topics. Okay. Are you familiar about the school districts that are organizing to provide safe havens and sanctuaries for schools against the efforts of ICE? It's all over the headlines today. And you know, this morning in House Judiciary, we took up the issue of the death penalty. You know, I'm sorry, with all due respect to everyone on this floor, we don't get to dodge the hard issues here. They're right in front of us. And I understand that we've got money and property to take care of. But we're dealing with human lives, and we're dealing with, just think of all the time and the energy that this body and the dark side and past governors and the current governor have gone to repudiate the policies that the NEA promotes and the SDEA as an affiliate. Why should our schools and their employees and their facilities and their equipment be withholding union dues when that's antithetical to virtually about everything that we stand for in this state? So I'm not apologetic about that. That's just a plain statement of fact. But let's separate out the financial relationship. This has nothing to do about loving your teachers or caring for your teachers. This is about raw life where it's lived. And so I encourage you to draw that line of separation. It's too bad that we have to be here and draw that line, but it's in front of us. So please vote green.
Thank you. Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of House Bill 1217. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine, and the members will proceed to vote.
Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there are ayes 27, nays 40, excused 3.
House Bill 1217, having failed to receive the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect, is hereby declared lost. Representative Derby.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to request a fiscal note for House Bill 1308 under 6C-1-.1.
Is there a second? Fiscal note requires 1/5 of the members to support. If you support the fiscal note, please stand. The member is supported. Thank you.
That's the way to do it.
Representative Odenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move we defer the balance of today's calendar to Thursday, February 19th, 2026.
That motion having been made and seconded, any remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of the Odenbach motion will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Constitution requires the Speaker to sign bills in open session, and so the Speaker is signing Senate Bill 117, an act to make appropriation for the design and construction of a new soccer venue at South Dakota State University and to declare an emergency. The Speaker is signing Senate Bill 67, an act to make an appropriation for costs related to emergencies and disasters impacting the state and to declare an emergency. The Speaker is signing Senate Bill 68, an act to make an appropriation for costs related to the suppression of wildfires impacting the state and to declare an emergency. The Speaker is signing Senate Bill 63, an act to establish the State Office of Apprenticeship within the Department of Labor and Regulation. And the Speaker is signing House Bill 1020, an act to increase the maximum amount allowable for the livestock ownership inspection fee and to declare an emergency. Announcements. Representative Aylward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow morning, 7:45, House tax. 7:45 tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Mulder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow morning, 7:45, Health and Human Services, 412. Tomorrow morning, 7:45. Catch that, committee members. Thanks.
Thank you. Representative Ladner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Local Government tomorrow morning, room 414, we have one bill.
Thank you. Representative Overweg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 7:45, House Ag and Natural Resources. We will be handling our last bill before crossover day. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Randolph.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 10 a.m., room 413, House Transportation.
Thank you. Representative Derby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Joint Committee on Appropriations will meet at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Odenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House State Affairs will meet 10 minutes after we gavel out today in 414 to take up 6 more bills, and the House will caucus in 414 at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Representative Rayfeld.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to let y'all know that Sadaho is doing some demonstrations on EMS software that will be implemented across the state up in 423 right now.
Thank you. Representative Goodwin.
Military and Veterans Affairs tomorrow night, 15 minutes after session.
Thank you, sir. Any further announcements? Representative Baumüller.
Mr. Speaker, I move we adjourn.
All those in favor of adjournment will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.